The presence of next thing now is what? Is the presence of nitrogen to test for what we call what? What? Nitrogen, nitrogen, followed by what? Sulfur. Then we have what? And what? Halogen. And the halogen are what? Chlorine, bromine, and what? Iodine. Let us test for what? The presence of nitrogen, sulfur, and halogen in organic compound. Don't forget, I said organic compound comprised of 2 to 5 elements. The major two is what? Carbon and hydrogen. But at times, nitrogen may be present, sulfur may be present, or halogen may be present. Check the functional group we did in the last video. So, how are we going to what? To test for the what? The presence of sodium, sulfur, and halogen in organic what? Compound. And that's what? The presence of sulfur, nitrogen, and halogen can be tested in organic compound by using a sodium meter. And the reaction is called sodium fusion test. Yes, the where what? Presence of nitrogen, sulfur, and what? Halogen, and what? Halogen. What is halogen? We have what? Chlorine, bromine, and iodine. In organic compounds, organic what? Compounds can be detected. Can be what? Be detected by sodium fusion test. Sodium fusion what? Test, which is also known as what? Which is also known as Lassigne'S text. Or Lassigne'S what? Text. The presence of sulfur, nitrogen, and halogen can be detected by a what? A test called sodium fusion what? Test, or Lassagne what? Lassagne text. Where the presence of carbon and hydrogen detected by what? Copper oxide. The presence of what? Sodium, nitrogen, sulfur, and halogen in organic compound can be detected by what? Lassagne what? Text, or sodium fusion test. Let us do the sodium fusion test. Now, sodium fusion test. So we can also call it what? Lassagne test. And let us treat it. So this is a chemical test that's used to detect the presence of sodium, sorry, the presence of nitrogen, sulfur, and halogen in organic compound by the with the help of what? Of heated sodium. So this is a what? Is a chemical text. Chemical test used to detect the presence of nitrogen, sulfur. Let me use another marker. Presence of what? Of nitrogen, sulfur, and what? And halogen. Don't forget, halogen is what? Chlorine, bromine, and iodine. In an organic compound. Organic what? Compound. What is Lassigne'S test or sodium fusion test? Is a chemical test that is used to detect the presence of sodium, sulfur, and halogens in organic compound. Yes. So what? The element, the what? The element present in the sample or in the sample, yes, reacts with sodium Na. React with what? With sodium, which is what? Na, or react with sodium metal to form a sodium salt. React with what? Sodium what? Metal to what? To form sodium salt in form of, if the element present react to sodium, you can have what? Sodium cyanide can form sodium sulfate and can form sodium X. X is what? Is halogen halide. So when the element present in the sample react with what? Metal in the presence of heat. Like I forgot to say it here too. The reaction here, we have heat here. The heat, we have heat here. So the heat will make this to oxidize to this. Yes. And here, hey, this copper, it should be S molecule of what? Of water. This one is anhydrous. Not the but hydrated one. That will be blue. Yes. So the element react with what? With sodium to form sodium cyanide, sodium sulfide, and sodium halide. So that is the fusion will convert the sodium, the fusion, let me put it this way. That is what? That is, yes, that is the fusion will convert. That is the what? Fusion will what? Or fusion converts, convert, how am I going to put it to, at this fusion converts halogen halogen, which is what? Bromine, no, which is chlorine, bromine, iodide, convert halogen and sulfur. Fusion convert what? Halogen and sulfur into what? Convert halogen and sulfur into sodium halide and sodium sulfite respectively. Sodium what? Sulfite respectively. So the when you eat what? Sodium metal with organic compound that contain this, it will the sodium will convert the halogen we have there to what? Sodium halide. Sulfur we have there into what? Sodium sulfite. And the last one, it will be what? It will now convert the what? The nitrogen into the what? Cyanide. Yes. So what? The nitrogen present in organic compound. The what? What? Nitrogen present. Very present. Oh, present. Yes. Very present in organic compounds. Present in organic what? Compounds. Converts to converts into nitrogen cyanide. Sodium, nitrogen what? Cyanide. The nitrogen present in organic compound. You know, all organic compound was contained was carbon. So the carbon that we have in this organic compound will now react with this nitrogen to form what? Nitrogen cyanide. To form what? Nitrogen what? Cyanide. So this is as shown in the what? In the diagram below. Look at it now. We have organic compounds like this, carbon, and it contains hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, and X. This X represents what? Halogen. If we now react with sodium, don't forget, in the presence of what? Heat. This symbol represents heat. Is heated what? Sodium. You will heat it. At the end of the day, in the reactant side, we have sodium to give out what? We have sodium cyanide plus, if it is sulfur present, we have what? Sodium sulfite. If it is halogen what? Present, we will have sodium halide. So this is what? Sodium fusion reaction. Organic compound that is contain carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, halide. When they act with what? With sodium in the presence of heat. So the fusion will occur. The sodium will fuse with what? Nitrogen and carbon to form sodium cyanide. Sodium will fuse with what? Sulfite to form nitrogen, sodium sulfide. It will fuse with what? With halogen to form sodium halide. But mind you, in this reaction, the sodium used here must be what? XX. The sodium must be what? Must be XX. You must use what? SS what? XX, so what? sodium. Why? If the sodium used in sodium fusion test is not in excess, is a limited what? Limited one. The product that it will form, instead of having sodium cyanide and then sodium sulfide, it will give us what? Sodium thiocyanide. Give us sodium what? What? Cyanide instead of giving us what? Sodium cyanide. That is, let me write it here. It is essential. It is what? Essential sure, to what? To use excess sodium. To use excess what? Sodium in sodium fusion what? Text. Sodium metal. In sodium fusion what? Text. Otherwise, the sulfur and halogen that present. Otherwise, the what? Sulfur and nitrogen. Sulfur and what? And nitrogen present. So I said it is essential to use excess sodium what? Sodium metal. Use excess sodium metal. Otherwise, if you use what? Limited sodium metal, the sulfur and nitrogen present. The sodium and what? And nitrogen present will form what? Will form sodium thiocyanate. So what? Sodium cyanide, yes. Sodium thiocyanate, which is what? NaCN sulfur. Can you see it now? Please, this area is very sensitive. In sodium fusion test, the excess sodium must be used. If excess sodium is used or react or heated with excess with organic what? Compound. This is organic what? Organic compound. Organic what? Compound. Good. Heated with excess organic compound, sodium cyanide, sodium sulfide, and the sodium halide will form. But here, if we mistakenly use what? Little sodium instead of the excess, the sodium we have here and sulfur and a carbon will react together to give us what? Sodium thiocyanide. The word thio here means what? Sulfur. Sodium thiocyanide will form. So in order to avoid this formation, the excess sodium will be used. So yes, now make me to rub this side. Oh, let me rub this side. The presence of sodium cyanide, sulfite, and halide can be recognized by testing with acidified AgNO3. Acidified what? AgNO3, lead ethanoate, and the freshly prepared iron sulfate. So the presence of these three compounds can be recognized or identified by what? By using what? AgNO3, lead ethanoate, and freshly prepared iron sulfate. Yes, full stop here. Let me continue. Yes. I will not say what? The presence, the what? Presence of the, then what? Presence of sodium halide. Let me use red marker or green marker. Sodium what? Halide, comma, sodium sulfide and sodium cyanide. Sodium what? Cyanide can be recognized. Can be recognized. RCON. Recognized by testing with yes acidify by Ag acidify what? AgNO3, comma, lead ethanate, lead ethanate which is lead CO3 COH A2 this lead ethanate and and iron, freshly prepared iron 2 sulfate respectively. Good. Yes, we are still on sodium fusion test. The presence of this sodium cyanide, sulfide, and halide can be recognized by testing with acidified AgNO3, lead ethanate, and iron sulfate, respectively. That is, sorry, that is AgNO3 is used to test for the halide, lead ethanate to test for sodium sulfide, and iron sulfate to test for sodium cyanide. So let us take it one after the what? Other. The first one is test for nitrogen. So if you want to test for nitrogen from the experiment, what is the common reagent used? Nitrogen is from this. We have sodium what? Cyanide. We react with what? Iron 2 sulfate to give us what? We have sodium sulfate plus sodium Na iron 6 cyanide. And the color is bluish green precipitate. Blue green precipitate. So the presence of what? Of this, it tells us that what? The nitrogen is what? Is present. So the next one is what? Let us test for sulfur. Test for what? Sulfur. To test for sulfur, what is the reagent used to test for sulfur here? You know that what? To test for sulfur, we use what? Lead ether what? Ethanoate to form lead sulfide and a sodium ether what? Ethanoate. So what is the sulfur component A? We have sodium, we have so what? We have sodium sulfide, we add with what? Lead what? Lead ethanoate to give you what? Lead what? Sulfide plus sodium ether what? Ethanoate. Lead sulfide plus sodium ethanoate, which is CH3 COO sodium put 2 here. So that because this lead sulfide to give you what? Black precipitate. Just have it in mind that the reagent used to test for presence of sulfur is lead ethanoate, methanoate, or ethanoate. To test for the presence of nitrogen, we use what? Iron 2 sulfates. So the presence when lead ethanoate reacts with organic compound or the filtrate, one of the filtrate of the what? Of the sodium fusion test, react with lead ethanoate, the sodium sulfide, it will give you what? Black precipitated the lead sulfide and the sodium ether what? Ethanoate. So the presence of sulfur in the sodium fusion test can be confirmed by using lead ethanoate, and the product is what? Lead sulfide, which is black precipitate and sodium ethanoate. So the last one now, which is the what? The test for halogen. Test for what? Halogen, which is what? Chlorine, bromine, and what? Iodine. So if we want to test for this halogen, like I said earlier, the portion of the filtrate of sodium fusion, we add it with what? Acidify AgNO3 plus HNO3 and precipitate what? Will form. Let me put it on board here. The what? The presence, the what? Presence of halogen. Halogen is tested by acidifying a portion, parts of sodium fusion filtrate. Sodium fusion filtrate. Do what? Filtrate with dilute HNO3 and adding silver nitrate. Adding what? Silver nitrate solution to the portion of the what? Sodium fusion test. By doing this, the formation of precipitates indicates the presence of what? Of halogen. When I say what? The formation of precipitates. The what? The formation of precipitates indicates the presence of halogen. The precipitate will form, and the precipitate may be white, may be pale yellow, and may be yellow precipitates. So the kind of precipitate form will determine the what? The kind of halogen we have. Let me support it with the equation of the reaction. This is sodium halide that form here. You know that what we have tested for this by using what? Fresh iron 2 sulfate. We have tested for this by using what? Lead ethanoate. So to test for this now, I say we use what? AgNO3 and HNO3 acid. So this is what? Halide, sodium halide react with silver nitrate. But note that what the silver nitrate is what? Is acidified. This is acidified plus HNO3. This HNO3 here, we use it to what? To acidify the what? AgNO3. So the iron and silver nitrate is used to test for the presence of halogen. And the product here is will be AgX plus sodium nitrate. This one will be dissolved. And this Ag what? AgX is a what? A precipitate. So what? A precipitate form. Precipitate. This is a precipitate that is what? That is formed. And this precipitate that is formed here will determine the kind of what? Of reaction that will take place. Let's take for example now, if we have what? A sodium chloride. If this X is chlorine, or if this X is sodium bromide, is bromine, or if this X is sodium iodide, which is iodide. So the reaction here, it will now be a what? In this form, join the two together, take it together like this. Yes. What do we have here? We have Ag silver nitrate acidified by what? HNO3. Good. And the product form here can be in three forms. The first one, if the product we have here is to give us what? AgCl. And this one will give us what? Sorry. Give us what? Ag what? Cl. And this AgCl we have here is a white precipitate. Is a what? White PPT. And if here we have what? Ag bromide, bromine. The precipitate we have here, it will be pale yellow. Pale what? Yellow. PPT. The pale yellow indicates the presence of what? Of bromine. White precipitate indicate the presence of what? Of chlorine. And the last one, if is silver iodide, HI. The precipitate form here is not pale yellow, it will be yellow. So the yellow precipitate indicates the presence of what? Of iodide. Presence of what? Of iodide. We can also add excess ammonia to what? To this. If we add excess ammonia to it, say what? This white precipitate here soluble in excess Na3. Here, the white precipitate here also what? Soluble. The pale yellow, sorry, soluble in excess what? Ammonia. Here, yellow precipitate here is what? Insoluble in excess what? Ammonia. So that is all about the sodium fusion text. For halogen, once again, for halogen, we use what? AgNO3 and HNO3 to test for halogen, sodium halide. So if we add it and we have a precipitate, if precipitate is white, it's silver chloride. If it's pale yellow, it will be silver bromide. If it is normal yellow, it's silver iodide. And the only silver iodide is insoluble in excess what? Ammonia. That is all about what? The identification of elements in organic compounds. If you remember, I said qualitative analysis is the chemical process that's used to, or is a laboratory chemical techniques that's used to identify the elements present in organic compound and functional group. So in organic compound, we have 2 to 5 elements present: carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, nitrogen, and halogen. Test for the presence of copper and of carbon and what? Hydrogen. We use what? Copper oxide, heated copper. To test for nitrogen, sulfur, and halogen, we use sodium fusion test. That's all about it. The next thing is what? Test for functional group.